Hitting broadcast, we're connecting to the server. We are now live on Facebook and we are now live in Zoom. Welcome to the 9th episode of Startup Showdown. People are trickling in, but as those of you who have watched this show before know, we are on a tight schedule. So welcome. I'm Jasmine. I'm the head of experience at TechUnited. Here with me is this week's guest on Startup Showdown. I am going to do my usual spiel, tell you all a little bit about how you can engage with these incredible founders and investors that we have here today. And then we're going to get right into our startup pitches. First, I'm going to do a couple housekeeping rules. This is being recorded. For those of you that want to rewatch, share with your friends, or take notes, we'll be sharing the recording later today on our Startup Showdown website, techunited.co/startup-showdown. On that website, you can also learn more about future episodes. Worth noting, the next episode of Startup Showdown is a very special edition. It'll be happening during Propelify, our week-long innovation festival. You can learn more about that episode, apply, and get more involved there as well. Startup Showdown is presented by Tech Council Ventures. Mark here today is representing Tech Council Ventures and TechUnited. For those of you that want to ask questions to the founders here after they've given their pitches, put those in the Q&A. I'll be moderating that, keeping an eye on it, and asking those questions as they come through. If you'd like to say hello, talk to us about how excited you are for today's episode, or about Propelify, or about seeing all these people on screen, put those in the chat, along with any other information you might want to share with our audience today. I am going to let the startups each introduce themselves as they get into their pitches. But before we do that, I wanted to ask each of our investors to say hello. And thank you again for joining us today. Steve, you mind saying hello and introducing yourself?
Sure, thank you, Jasmine. I am Steve Cohen. I am the chair of the Emerging Business and Technology practice at Morgan Lewis, where I represent the legal needs of over 100 startups, including startup ecosystems such as Startup Health, which is a digital healthcare ecosystem. I'm also chairman of the board of Meditation for Leadership, which is bringing mindfulness and meditation practices into the corporate setting, and an angel investor with a particular focus on impact investing, with about 20 positive impact investments that return both a positive financial return and a positive social return.
Amazing. Thank you for joining us today, Steve. Mark, how you doing today?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you once again, Jasmine, for having us, for running all this. It looks like a great event as always. So I'm Mark Kolb. I'm a partner with the Tech Council Ventures. We're a New Jersey-based early stage mid-Atlantic investor. I would say we're pretty technology agnostic. We're just looking for terrific entrepreneurs and terrific companies. We usually invest between, say, $500,000 and $2.5 million. We're very engaged investors. We really think of ourselves as partners with the entrepreneur and with the portfolio companies. And I think we really work diligently to be supportive of those companies. I've got two partners, Jim Gunton and Steve Sokoloff. They're both 20-year plus veteran investors. And my background is an entrepreneur. I've run 5 or 6 different businesses in pharma IT, healthcare IT, and medical device. And thanks again, Jasmine, for having us.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us, Mark. And Ren, last but not least.
Well, thanks for having me. My name is Ren Rome, and I'm a principal at Boston Millennium Partners. We're a Boston-based growth equity firm primarily, but we also have a professional seed fund. We've made about 20 investments. And so we write, out of the seed fund, we write smaller checks, $250 to $500K. Growth fund is our larger checks into revenue stage businesses. We're primarily healthcare focused. We invest across the healthcare ecosystem, both in IT and services. We've been around for about 30 years, currently investing in our 8th fund, like dry powder. And we've worked with Tech Council a fair amount on some recent deals. And it's great to be here. I've been with the firm for 5 years and managed due diligence and sourcing at BNP. So.
Very nice. Well, thank you for joining us. So like I said, we're going to hear from each of these founders today. We've got Dan, Luke, and Kirsten with us from WellCare, Data Biologics, and Lambent Data. First up is Dan today. I'm going to turn it over to him in just a second. Before I do so, I want to remind everyone that there will be an Audience Choice Award towards the end. So make sure you're taking any notes, visiting their websites, and asking questions if you have them. Those questions, again, go in the chat. Those questions go in the Q&A. Any other comments go in the chat. Already getting too excited for the startup demos today, and I'm getting ahead of myself. But without any further ado, I'm going to turn it right over to Dan, and we'll get started with our first startup pitch of the day.
Okay, thank you very much. I will go to my screen now.
Sounds good. I'll see you in 5 minutes.
Okay. And let me know when you want me to start.
Ready to go.
Okay. So our company is Health Assist. We bridge 45 million unpaid caregivers in the U.S. with remote patient monitoring. And you're going to see how we bring together a number of innovative and cutting-edge technologies. This is our board of directors. My background is I've been an entrepreneur for a number of years. I was number 32 on Deloitte's New Jersey Technology Fast 50. I won the Best Expansion Stage Company at the New Jersey Venture Fair. My CTO is qualified with many years of experience, a director of technology in Nortel, Comcast. He was the manager for set-top devices. And then all the other members bring their own perspective to the company. Legal with Mark, Dr. Gukar is a cardiologist. Sumir has a 250-person IT company. John Rolando just retired as president of Evonik, a $5 billion company. And Arun is a successful entrepreneur, has done a roll-up of radiology companies, and just had the company bought out and is doing very well with that. We see a market opportunity. What's known as the personal emergency response industry, people may know that from the company called Life Alert. I fell and I can't get up, right? And obviously, that's a very effective commercial because just about everybody knows about it. Well, that's a $6 billion industry. And according to AARP, there's 45 million unpaid caregivers in the United States. And the technology in that market is old technology. It's starting to be replaced with wearables that instead of just giving a lifeline when someone needs to go to the emergency room, it's much better to be able to monitor and manage that person so they don't have to make that 911 call. And that's what we're all about. We've been working with Samsung as a partner for a little over a year. And we utilize their cutting edge monitors in order to monitor and manage the health of senior citizens, as well as providing those features and services that the personal emergency response market has done in the past. And as you can see from this visual here, this latest watch monitors your ECG for heart irregularities, blood pressure, blood oxygen, trip detection. The bottom three really don't apply to our market, but for the younger market and for some others, it could, but it's not our focus. So here's the why. We think there's a tremendous opportunity here. The market is huge, and the technology is changing. And so what we've done is our past is with population health management. And the reason we got into this is our clients, Anthem and Cigna, shared with us a problem that they had with Medicare Advantage members in that they don't use digital technology. So 4 years ago, we developed our first Health Assist watch to solve that problem. And about a year and a quarter, we partnered with Samsung and we developed 5 different levels of healthcare support for the senior market. And so there's something in here for everyone. We sell the watch at below cost. We help subsidize it to get them started. They could come in at any level that makes sense for them, at the price point that makes sense for them. And at any point, they could upgrade to the next level. So it goes from, as you see in level 2, the icons that you could press to call 911 or the caregiver. It is an independent phone. You do not need a smartphone to make these calls. There's a web companion that goes with that. The next level does medication adherence management. We have a lot of experience and results and data with that from our population health management programs. And then you get into ECG monitoring, blood pressure, all the way up to remote patient monitoring. And how we're going to do it? Well, we're going to work with channel partners. So in remote patient monitoring, we started relationships with companies that already sell to physician offices, and that's working well. With the existing, let's call it life alert type companies, they've all been looking to add an effective wearable to their product line. We already started working with Medical Care Alert, as you can see on the right side. We're talking with Medical Guardian, Bedford Medical Alert, and others. B2C, we're being put up on Amazon and Walmart, and we've had extensive meetings with Best Buy, Walgreens, and CVS. And the relationship with Best Buy is rather intensive in that their Geek Squad City is going to become part of our deliverabilities as we scale up, provision the watches, send them out, support the residents at their home, and they're very excited about that. If you look at the cost comparison, as you could see, Life Alert is the recognized leader. And if you look at their monthly subscription of $69 to $89 and compare it with ours, Medical Guardian is another big player, and you see how we compare against that. The bottom line is we offer much, much more cutting-edge features at a price that is equal or less than companies that just have a button to press to call an agent. And so we believe we could get a nice slice of that market as we go forward.
That's 5 minutes, just to let you know.
Okay. The data that we collect is put into the form of a monitor report that the family caregiver gets, and is also accessible to the remote patient monitoring physician. As you know, remote patient monitoring is very effective in reducing hospital admissions, and the physicians get paid about $1,500 a year. We make it easy for them to participate in remote patient monitoring in a cost-effective way. And we look to expand to mass market devices like the Alexa 8, which can become the portal into the household for connecting everything that we do with telehealth and remote patient monitoring. We have an exit strategy that we think is reasonable, and that is my contact information.
Ready for investor feedback. Thank you for that, Dan. You can go ahead and stop sharing your screen, and we will start things off with Steve.
Thanks. Thanks for the presentation. You've made a lot of great progress. So what stops Apple, Fitbit from just adding these features and sort of taking over that market?
Well, we want them to add features because we don't want to be a manufacturer. We take advantage of that. And so what we developed is a comprehensive health management ecosystem on the back end that acts as the glue to bring all of these devices together and to support remote patient monitoring and telehealth. So, we want them to keep adding stuff. We don't want to be in that business. We're a software company.
So you develop the back end side. So all of the technology on the actual device is not your technology.
There's our software is also in the watches.
Okay.
And it has to be very precisely integrated. It's not an app because, for instance, these watches have a small battery and a small antenna. And so if you're in a bad reception area, even though the battery would normally last 2 hours, as an independent device, it could run down the battery in 3-4 hours. So we're integrated into their system. We turn on and off cellular and Wi-Fi programmatically. And so we confirm that our battery will always last more than a day, which is critical for this market.
Got it.
So to be clear, you don't manufacture any of the devices. You buy them from some Samsung, or you said you'd also interface with like an Apple Watch or something?
Well, we don't do Apple today, but no, we buy the watches from Samsung at a discount. We put them on the cellular network under our program. We load our software into the watches. We test it, shipped out, and then everything is managed from the back end. And the family caregiver has the Health Assist web companion. That allows them to monitor and manage mom's health, connects them to resources and information to help mom with her medical condition.
Okay, so I'm sorry to interrupt. Dan, how do you, tell me succinctly your value proposition to the customer?
Well, and there's a unique selling position in both cases. To the Life Alert buyer, rather than giving a lifeline call when mom has to go to the hospital, they get to monitor and manage mom's health, and so she doesn't have to call 911, and they can do that as a cost that's equal less than what Life Alert might charge. For the remote patient monitoring audience, we're the only RPM company that, in addition to showing the vitals, also shows that patients' medications and their adherence rates, whether or not they've had heart irregularities that's picked up by the ECG, and some other items that are critical to assessing the patient. So in both cases, we have a unique selling position.
And is the go-to-market strategy primarily direct to consumer?
No, it's channel partners.
Okay.
So for the PERS market, we go to those existing players. They're looking for wearables. We have a very good solution for them. For physician offices, we're going to those companies that provide practice management software, coding software, billing software, and they could add what we have to their toolbox, which, because it's innovative and cutting edge, it opens doors for them.
So your real revenue comes from the B2B to C.
Yes.
Okay.
Or B2B to B if you consider the physician office, business.
Right. And what's the stage of the company? Are you generating revenue yet?
Now, we had to wait. We did not want to release the product until we were very comfortable that we worked out all bugs, and we had to take a little extra time to work our way through the problem with the battery, which we have, and messages that go to the watch or cell phones or smartphones go through what they call a push server. And we found out that the Samsung push server was not reliable. So we had to work around that as well. That's all done now.
Okay, so you're still working through some technical challenges to
No, that's complete. We're not working through any challenges anymore. We're ready to go to market on October 1st.
Terrific. So are you raising money now?
Well, we're in the process of doing that. We met with Greenit. We met with Hackensack, Meridian, Bears Den Group. There's some other investor companies that are looking at us. I raised money in the past from VCs. And so some of those people are interested in the A round after the C round. As soon as we pass, like 2 million in sales, they'd like to finance us. So we got a good start. And we invested up to this point through our IT partners and through private investors, around 600 to 650,000 so far.
Great, that's a lot of progress. So There's some, you mentioned a lot of different features. There's some companies like, Care Predict that really focuses on the fall detection technology and might have state-of-the-art, fall detection technology. You have a lot of different things. What's really excellent? So, I mean, what about, in addition to having a lot of different things, what in your device is really top quality, excellent?
Well, Apple and Samsung lead the market. There's no question. They're the cutting edge companies. And just recently, Samsung leapfrogged Apple for the first time in this area, where the watch has blood pressure and blood oxygen as well. I'm sure in a few months with the next release, Apple is going to come out with something. But one of the reasons we got into this is we very much believe, based upon what we know, that within the next 2 or 3 years, these watches are also going to have non-invasive glucose monitoring. And that's going to really punch this market.
And do you have what's the relationship with WellCare? Is there an existing business that's operational today?
No, it's and we got that cleared when we started the company a long time ago. No, there's no relationship.
Okay.
I do have a few questions from the audience, if you guys don't mind, unless you have other questions.
Go for it.
Cool. So Christine is asking, her husband works for the Veterans Administration in Veteran Home Care and was asking specifically how accurate is the fall detection technology and what studies have been done on that accuracy level?
Well, I would have to refer her to the Samsung websites and to the reviews online. Again, these companies are multi-billion-dollar companies, the biggest companies in the world. If anybody's going to get it right, they're going to get it right.
Got it. And a follow-up, for people that are home caregivers who the physician's office has recommended this device, is there some sort of training or a manual, or how do you make sure that the end user or the people taking care of them are sufficiently trained at utilizing the software and utilizing this correctly?
Yeah, that's a good question. We make it very easy. When the watch is shipped, there's a quick start guide in there. You flip through it, and by the way, you know what you could do. And then we also provide a video for the Health Assist Web Companion. And there's a walkthrough that shows everything that you could do and the value that it brings to the consumer. And then, of course, there's an 800 number. Anybody who has a question just calls, customer support, and that organization will help them.
Got it. Excellent. Well, thank you for the presentation and answering all of the questions, Dan. We're going to move on to the next startup of the day and bring Luke on screen to share his presentation and pitch today. And Dan, we will see you towards the end for the closing remarks.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Luke. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Data Biologics. And let me just share my screen quickly, pull up the presentation.
Sounds good. Once you get it up and going, you'll have 5 minutes. When you see me pop back on screen, that's your 30-second warning.
Great.
Cool.
Okay, so again, I'm Luke. I'm the COO of Data Biologics. And Data Biologics is the premier solution for physicians looking to collect and interpret outcomes data on their regenerative orthopedic procedures. So taking a look at the industry that we operate in, the field of orthopedics right now is in desperate need for change. And so as you can see from some of these headlines, patients are looking for better alternatives to orthopedic surgeries, which can be expensive, invasive, and complicated. And the reality is that they're just not right for everyone. And so there are many unnecessary surgeries that are being done when the reality is they should probably be a last resort. And on the other hand of things, we have these new emerging treatments. And broadly, these are known as regenerative treatments. And so these are things like platelet-rich plasma or adipose or bone marrow. And they're non-invasive treatments that use the body's own cells to heal tissue, ligaments, and joints. And so what we're seeing here, however, is kind of the Wild West, and there's little regulation, there's little standardization. And that's kind of the solution we're here to help solve, is by bringing evidence and data to the forefront of these procedures. So taking a quick look at the problems that we're looking to address. So again, there's rising costs of traditional orthopedic surgeries, the unsupported and unvalidated treatment approaches across the board on both sides of the spectrum, and then also the need for more evidence for these regenerative procedures, which have been seen to be really promising through clinical trials, but they really need more data in order to prove how effective they are for patients. And so that's where we come in with Data Biologics. So we're offering a web platform where physicians can collect and review their patient outcomes. So physicians are able to track their outcomes of patients and generate real-time reports to actually use those outcomes to impact their care decisions. And our hope then for the future is that we'll pave the way for more evidence-based treatments that will then help to move towards a more value-based healthcare system. And that comes down to these treatments being significantly cheaper than those alternatives, which are surgical alternatives. And so a quick look at our platform here. So we've designed a secure, HIPAA-compliant, encrypted web-based platform. And the way it works is physicians will enter their patient's details, they'll enter the diagnosis and treatment info, and from there, we're automatically generating standardized surveys that the patients are going to complete. Our system sends these surveys out to the patients either via email or text. And then we also have a dedicated mobile app where patients can get reminders, view their patient information, and then fill out those surveys. So this is ongoing, and it starts with the baseline before the procedure, and then is ongoing for 2 years or more as we get there down the line. But the idea is that the patients are submitting their outcomes data, and then the physicians are able to review that. So that kind of brings us to the other side of the platform here, which is the ability to actually use this data in the clinical space. So as you can see here, this is a demonstration, and this is actual real world data of a procedure, or procedures rather. So it's 21 patients here, knee procedures, and this is their pain level going from a 7.8 down to a 2.3. So this is showing both like a preview of the effectiveness for this specific clinic, as well as the way that we do that reporting and how that can be used for impacting care decisions. Taking a quick look at the market here. So musculoskeletal conditions are huge, and 1 in 2 Americans experience a musculoskeletal condition. It also makes up 30% of all of healthcare expenditures and 5% of the GDP. So it's a really huge market, and the costs are rising as our population gets older and more of these treatments are being done. So the estimated cost for a knee replacement is $30,000 versus $5,000 for that regenerative alternative. And then just looking at the growth of this regenerative space, you're looking at a 23.8% compounded annual growth rate between 2019 and 2024, and expected to be $38 billion, with musculoskeletal conditions accounting for the largest part of that regenerative medicine space. And then quickly looking at our business model, we operate primarily on a subscription model right now. And so it's $50 per physician per month, and they're signing a 2-year agreement to collect their data. But in the future, where we're really looking towards the value is using this large data set and allowing that to drive care decisions. So it's that data mining and creating those protocols and that interpretation based off of those data outcomes. And a quick look at our competition, the main thing I'll highlight is that Data Biologics is the only platform out there that's inexpensive, specific for orthobiologics, and also allows for that robust automation and those instant outcomes reports. So it's not just a registry, it's also those data outcomes that become really important for their actual use. And I'd also like to highlight what I believe is our biggest competitive advantage, which is the team that's created Data Biologics. And so we're founded and operated by leading physicians who are doing these procedures every single day. And these are leaders in regenerative medicine and pain management and sports medicine who have been doing these procedures for over 2 decades. And they're also joined by a technical director in California, and he's an expert in developing healthcare apps. So what this expertise allows us to do is 2 things. 1, create a platform that's specific for physicians who are doing these types of procedures, and two, allow us to connect with those physicians, which you can see from our traction so far. So we launched in June of 2019. And so just over a year, we've added 60 physicians. We have 41 clinics across the country and 2,600 patients. We're also in discussions with some device makers, as well as some bigger hospital systems to add more of those physicians coming soon. And so lastly, looking at our financials, in the next 6 months, we're really looking to build up this platform and build up our sales and marketing. So we have an initial opportunity of $500,000. And our hope with that is to then drive our sales and marketing once our platform is completely developed. So right now we're in the stage of moving from that MVP to that 1.0 in the next month or so. And from there, we're really looking to drive those sales, adding over 150 members is our goal by June of 2021, which would be year 2 of since being founded. And from there, we're looking to bring in revenues of over $200,000, which within the next 12 months. And this is strictly based off of that subscription model and doesn't include any of those additional services or the use of the data and those types of things. So really, we're envisioning a new age of healthcare, and we're focusing on orthopedics and regenerative medicine. And we envision improved healthcare, better patient experience, lower costs, and all of that driven by data. And so that's why data biologics is important for physicians who are looking to be involved in this new wave of orthopedic treatments.
Thank you, Luke. Went a little bit over there, so I'm going to get right into the investor feedback here with Steve. What are you thinking?
So thank you, Luke. I think that was very informative, and I can see how that could help a patient. What I don't understand is how you're marketing this in the successful revenue model. So it's a subscription model, but if you're selling to physicians who aren't getting reimbursement, that's a tough sell. So how are you marketing and selling your subscription? And that's really my question.
Yeah, and it's a great point. I think what we've seen already is that there's a desire for these physicians to collect data. And that's because of all the kind of bad players in the field right now. And so there are people who are discrediting regenerative medicine, and physicians want to show their patients that they have real outcomes and are performing these procedures that are actually useful and helpful for patients. And so we're presenting that to physicians as a way for them to show this to their patients and sort of use that as a way to prove their effectiveness. And over time, and what we're seeing actually, happening soon is that there will be FDA regulation that's going to require, data for this. And we're seeing that already in countries like France and Italy, which are starting to crack down on these regenerative procedures. So in the future, it's going to push these physicians to have to prove the outcomes and the effectiveness. And that's how we're kind of targeting those physicians as wanting to start doing that now to prove the effectiveness of their procedures.
Yeah, well, there's already regulation for this in place. For example, the physical therapists have to, every 10 visits, they've got to give some validated surveys to their customers and record that for reimbursement and so on. Do you do any clinical outcomes, or is it all the validated instruments, the validated survey instruments?
Yeah, so the way we've set it up is we've select these standardized surveys, and so it is focused on patient outcomes. And our reason for focusing on that is because the physicians believe that the best person to basically explain how successful their procedures are is through them reporting their outcomes and using these surveys. They are functional scale, so it's questions about their functionality as well as their pain levels. But in terms of like clinical trials, those have been done and those are being done. But our focus here is on outcomes and a large set of outcomes, and then using that to kind of push the field forward.
Okay, so I ran a patient-reported outcome business years ago based out of Dartmouth Hitchcock. And virtually identical. We had 130, 140 different validated instruments that we administered and so on. Mm-hmm. And we called that company to Press Ganey. would you regard Press Ganey as a competitor?
Well, I think where we're different from those traditional outcomes companies, which there are definitely other competitors out there who are doing the same thing as us. But the difference is that we're one of the only that's focused specifically on regenerative medicine. And on one side of things, you'll see it as us narrowing our market. But the way we see it is we're focusing on a market that's growing. And by focusing on that, we'll be the leaders in the data specifically on these types of procedures. So you mentioned you have 150 validated outcomes. We only have probably 10 or 15 that we're tracking, but it's still a wide range of orthopedic conditions. So it still is that a pretty big market and a growing market.
When you say 10 or 15, you mean like the HOOS and the KOOS and the
exactly. Yep.
Those instruments. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Great. Cool. Good.
And have you approached the manufacturers yet? I mean, I think that this could fit in with the ongoing clinical trials quite well.
We have, yes, and we've done that in early stages, and just starting to have discussions with them. And just recently, we've been in discussion with one large manufacturer internationally, and they're looking to basically sponsor some of their the users of their device to collect data. And again, it goes back to them proving the effectiveness of their specific device. So that's where they see that value. So yeah, that's definitely a channel we're into more, is directly going to these device makers and the industry there, and looking as that as another source of revenue, and kind of tiers of how we can, get physicians involved.
Absolutely. I would say that the manufacturers and device makers are probably the bigger opportunity, I imagine. And as you build your data set, obviously that data will be valuable, as
right.
Market access and clinical trials.
So do you, as far as the data you provide back, do you end up, if you will, giving almost a scorecard on how well the individual physician performed?
Yeah, so that's something we're building out right now. So the way it's set up is each clinic will have their own specific portal just for their data, and that's to protect patient data, as well as to give them access to their ecosystem there. And so they're able to graph outcomes of everything, individual patients as well as group outcomes. And so those are usually end up being on a 1 to 10 scale. So it's kind of easy to see that change. But to answer your question, that is something we're definitely trying to do in the future, is to use us almost as a stamp of approval and saying, here's the ranking, or here's the consumer reports basically of saying how effective different physicians are with their procedures. And then from there, to determine why they're more successful. Is it because of the protocols they're using? Is it because of the device that they're using? So the practicality of those procedures is really tied into our data collection as well.
I have a few audience questions, mostly about the survey practice. And you might have covered this, so I just want to clarify. When a particular procedure is done and the survey is filled out, it's filled out on both sides by both the physician and the patient?
No, it's a good question. It's just from the patient side. And so the physician, the only thing they're entering is the patient details. And this could also be in a medical assistant or someone else in the office. And then the diagnosis and treatment. And then the patient themselves is just, they're the ones answering the pain levels and the functionality over time. And so the physicians aren't answering that, but there has been research that shows that the correlation often between what the physician thinks, the success of the procedure versus the patient, it pretty much matches up on there, but we're focused on what the patients have to say about their pain and their function.
So then how do you take the placebo effect into consideration? And how do you ensure that the results, which are given by a likely non-medically trained patient, are relevant enough and can provide the right insights for medically trained professionals?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think one answer to that is the scale. So if you have, 10,000 plus patients who are saying, here's my pain now and here's my pain after, and you're seeing a large decrease in pain or increase in function, then that's enough to basically prove that these procedures are effective. Placebo or not, if there's effectiveness in it, then that's then that's worth it for a patient, basically, is kind of the understanding that we're going off of. And I'm sure the physicians could weigh in more than I can. But the other side of things is that there are ongoing clinical trials to determine what it actually is that's making these procedures work as opposed to a placebo. So there are those placebo trials. We're not necessarily interested in that directly. We're interested more in the patients and how they view the success of their procedures and the care, and then weighing that with the value. So if you're spending $30,000 on a knee replacement versus $5,000 on a regenerative procedure, and you have similar results, then you would obviously go with a cheaper option. And that kind of gets to the basis of the value-based healthcare.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we do have to move on to Kirsten's pitch, but before we do that, I have one question from Roger, who always brings the best questions to the Startup Showdowns, and I never get to ask them, so because it's always a little bit too late, but I'm going to squeeze this one in. So Roger wants to know if you're generating revenue. If so, what was last month's revenue, and who your competitors are in the space?
Yeah, so we are generating revenue, yes. And last month's revenue is probably very minimal, to be honest. And that's because we've kind of paused our sales and marketing as we're increasing our development. So we didn't want to onboard people too quickly when we still have some bugs. So we're working those out in the next month or two. And then from there, really trying to, pound the pavement and start getting sales. But we have 60 paying physicians right now. And we also have, a sales pipeline already set up, ready to go to onboard a lot of new physicians and give demos to a lot of new physicians. And I forget the second part of the question.
Second part was competitors in the space.
Competitors. Yeah, there certainly are competitors in the space, but there's no one who's really done it successfully for regenerative medicine specifically. And so that's our focus, and we're sticking to that and trying to grow that out as we build.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much for your pitch and answering all these questions, Luke. We're going to bring you back on for the closing remarks. I'm going to bring Kirsten on to share the last startup pitch of the day.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. There she is. Ready whenever you are.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much to TechUnited and the investors and all the participants. We at Lambent Data are very excited to debut our launch video, which is intended as an intro for investors as well as for potential customers. So we'd love your feedback on that. And then I will close out the 5 minutes with some business slides. So I'm going to share my screen and I'll pull up. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the video link. In the US, about 2 in every 5 people live at or below the threshold of just making ends meet. I just want to check that everyone can hear the video, the audio on this.
Yep, if you want to go full screen on the bottom right corner, you can as well, and then we can see the whole thing.
Great, thank you.
Perfect.
In the US, about 2 in every 5 people live at or below the threshold of just making ends meet. And while social services and healthcare providers do their best to provide support and stay connected, millions of families still face daunting challenges managing health, housing, jobs, education, and nurturing their children. In the current environment, it's even harder. It's hard for providers, too. Supporting families requires connection and collaborative engagement, and often existing case management tools do not effectively engage the families to help them achieve better outcomes. What if there were a way for providers to extend their reach to families while helping families reach their goals and learning more about what's working to improve programs? There is. We at Lambent Data have developed Outreach, a collaborative engagement platform and app to help providers empower families to create better life outcomes and collect critical data to track progress and improve programs. Here's how it works. Social service and healthcare providers subscribe to the tool and then provide the app free to the families they serve. Providers can add customized resources, suggest goals for families, and send push notifications to help families reach their milestones. Family users can set personalized goals, track progress, and access these resources, all from the palms of their hands. By equipping families with crucial preventive health tools and addressing social determinants of health, our reach also reduces healthcare costs while empowering families to reach their goals. Our reach is designed to integrate seamlessly and securely with current case management systems, enabling better communication with families and showing providers detailed data analytics for a more complete view of how families are progressing towards their goals and key milestones. Our seasoned management team has deep expertise in software development, data analytics, social services, healthcare, and marketing. And agile software engineers and analysts have advanced Lambent's work. Together, our board, advisors, and management have track records building successful businesses. Please join us to make a powerful impact for families, providers, and communities. Visit lambentdata.com to learn more. Lambent Data, empowering families, reaching goals.
If you're a coach, consultant, or course creator, YouTube ads beat Facebook.
So, moving on to our scalability. This is our market. So I spoke about the 2 in 5 people who are just at or below the threshold of making ends meet. And hundreds of thousands of nonprofits are spending billions of dollars to serve them. Worldwide, nonprofits spend over $3 billion on software. Another channel for us is hospitals, and they are increasingly investing in social determinants of health. Employers are another arena. They also spend billions on employee wellness and increasingly have kind of outcry and interest in supporting even their lower income employees in various ways. Our market landscape, I'm showing here kind of a range of different competitors, many of whom are not direct competitors. It's really to show the space in this field for equipping providers and equipping families. Lambent's our reach is both enterprise software for providers that extends the reach of their current case management tools and personalized engagement for families in many arenas, not just health, such as individual mobile health apps or some other personal goal apps. This addresses the whole range of issues that a low-income family is facing. We have strong pipeline traction to head into our pilots in mid-October and November. We've selected these organizations and we've gotten some really wonderful feedback from the leaders regarding our tool. They have impact in a range of areas. You can see teen parents, homelessness, a whole range of other family-oriented organizations, and even in the human services and hospital arena, we've had various conversations. We're engaging various organizations in some workshops even prior to our launch to help families think about goal setting and other aspects that will be available in the app. Our financial
30 seconds.
snapshot is here, and it's built from the ground up based on the networks of scaling from the pilots. So these revenue projections are fairly detailed. Of course, they can always, we have flexibility on those, but the unit economics are in the $1 to $2 range for a family. We would be providing incentives for the pilot customers. And in fact, we're working with some of them in terms of raising funds from their donors to launch the pilots. So the unit economics are very strong when you see that the outcomes that the families would be facing would deliver much more value in terms of, one example, lifetime earnings from someone who is gaining a high school diploma are in the hundreds of thousands, 300,000 to 800,000 for an individual, with all the assorted benefits for that family as well. We are raising capital for runway through our pilots. I'm happy to give more details on that. We have been a very lean team, and you could see that in our team. I'm happy to talk more about our team, but we have leveraged very lean investment from family and friends, and we are looking ahead for the seed round. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Steve, thoughts?
Thank you. First of all, I thought the racial equality statement on your website was very well done.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. I'm saying this for you, but also for the benefit of those in the audience. I did not think your presentation was well done. First of all, I have about 10 questions, which means you didn't answer the questions that was going through my mind while you gave it. And I did not think the video switching to the PowerPoint worked to me. I mean, I think that if you were showing a medical device or a surgical device and showing how it works in surgery, that might be a good place for a video. And there were some feel-good things in there, but I didn't feel like there was enough from the video that couldn't have just been in a smoother presentation. So maybe other people feel differently, but I'll just give you that impression. That being said, I'm actually interested in what you're doing, and I'd love to see more about your details and the seed round that you're doing. But my question is really relating to the revenue model. So I don't understand who's buying it and why they're buying it. I understand that it's free for the families. I understand, you know, how that could benefit people if people who actually had the technology to use it, you know, were able to use it, and that the people that you're talking about wanting to be connected were actually connected on the same platform using this. That would be awesome. But there's a lot lost in the middle there, and I don't really understand who's going to buy it, make that happen.
Sure. So we do have a PowerPoint that lays out all of this quite clearly, or hopefully clearly, but it is a SaaS model. So the subscribers are the nonprofit organizations, the potentially hospitals, and potentially employers who would subscribe to this tool. And there would be a startup fee. You know, once we get going, that startup fee, sort of setup fee, would be in the $750 to $900 range, and then a monthly subscription fee of in the $200 to $300 range per month. That addresses
Per person per month?
Oh no, per organization.
Per organization.
Right. So for a nonprofit organization that would be serving say 100 families or 200 families, that's where you get the unit economics of the $1 to $2 per family per month. And then they subscribe to the software platform, which is built in an AWS system. And so then the family users in this first iteration then would be able to use this web app that you saw in the video, with the various goal setting and other resources, etc. As we have a database linked to that. And so then the providers also would over time be able to link in and see those specific goals and outcomes. It's pretty well thought out from various feedback that we've gotten from different organizations. And I have spent a lot of my career working closely with nonprofit organizations, and a number of, the team has very strong operational experience in both building software and rolling it out operationally.
Thank you.
And tell me about the end users, the families that are using it. Just give me an idea about the value proposition to them. How do they see it? What do they love about it?
Sure. So it allows them in the palm of their hand to go, the health, the housing, education, jobs, and nurturing their children. So there's specific goal templates that are suggested that they can pick for daily things that they do and, check off or whatever. They can do customized things that are compelling for their specific situation. And then there's also milestones, like the bigger things, like graduating from high school or whatever. And part of the issue is, like, take someone who has, say, gestational diabetes. They have, they're pregnant, they may have another child, they have gestational diabetes. Some of this is to help them manage the health itself, like talking with the family members about the food and so on. But it might also be for talking with their employer about a different schedule so that they could do their insulin differently and so on. So it sort of broadens the scale of how somebody is approaching an issue in their lives. And then, as I said, with the example of the, getting a GED, that would then elevate them even to the point where maybe they wouldn't have to have jobs that are these gig jobs that are very hectic and very difficult to manage a diabetes situation, popping around from job to sort of gig job to gig job. So from a longer view standpoint, it helps them to kind of think through ways that they can improve their situation. And then it also really ties in closely with the organization, the provider. So it's the provider can suggest things, they can send push notifications. It's a way of undergirding that relationship. And then, of course, in the COVID and beyond environment, doing this through a mobile app is really compelling, as people are not able to get together as they might have in, as illustrated in the video or other ways.
You're covering a lot of breadth in terms of how you're approaching people. How far along is the software in terms of its development? And, have you had a pilot yet anywhere?
So we have a very robust design for this in a Marvel app design with the interactive features. And we have been building it out in the AWS environment. And so we're looking towards the pilots in mid-October to November for an MVP.
Okay.
So we've gotten feedback from our, potential pilot partners using the interactive Marvel app that is, we've gotten feedback that they've, it has so many features that they really, really find valuable.
Well, we're a minute or two over. I want to make sure we wrap everything up, but we're respectful of everyone's time. I did get one quick question from the audience that I want to give you a chance to answer, and it has to do with worrying about access to technology and a smartphone for people on the lower end of the socioeconomic scale. And could that be a barrier to adoption? For example, this was an example about foster parents interacting with biological parents in this instance.
Sure. Right. And in fact, I've actually talked with families that have, are in that foster care situation. And initially, we were building this out as a web app, which actually is a little bit easier on the data elements. Now, of course, there is a question about Wi-Fi and different things like that, which we've seen a lot of attention on that from a national scale. And, places like Verizon and others are really, stepping up to try to provide additional hotspots, et cetera. There has been a lot of research that shows that low-income families do have smartphones, and we did some personal research as well as there's, like national studies on this, because that's really a lifeline. I mean, people might not have a lot of other things,
Right.
but that phone that allows them to connect to things is really critical.
Got it. Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you for answering that. I know that everyone's shared their contact information, so I'm going to encourage the people watching to grab that information or reach out to myself or anyone else on the TechUnited team, and we'll be sure to get folks in touch. I want to invite Luke and Dan back on screen for our closing remarks, and I want to, again, thank you all for participating, spending your Thursday afternoon with us on this 9th episode of Startup Showdown. So Steve, Mark, Ren, Luke, Kirsten, Dan, thank you all for joining us today. It's a pleasure having you all.
Thank you to all of you,
you.
and thanks to everyone,
Thank you.
at Lambent Data and all of the rest of your teams as well. Best wishes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining. Next episode will be at Propelify, so stay tuned. And I'm going to end this on a note saying today's winner of the Audience Choice Award is Lambent Data. Congratulations.
Wonderful. Well, thank you.
Jasmine, how can companies still apply for Propelify to present?
They can apply by going to techunited.co and heading to the Startup Showdown page, by emailing myself, jasmine@techunited.co, emailing anyone else on our team that they might know, or going to the propelify.com website. You can get in any of those ways, Steve. I love you for asking that. And don't forget, investor speed dating also happening at Propelify. If you like Startup Showdown, you want to do more pitching, you want to hear more pitches, investor speed dating information is also on the Propelify website.
Thank you so much for all the wonderful feedback.
Have a great day, everyone, and see you soon.
Thanks,
Thank
Jazz.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.